It's another week, and that means another amazing album. Today, we're going to take a look at Crystal Skies' sophomore album, Stardust. And I have to say that as Crystal Skies has been a really big favorite of mine. I love their songs all throughout their years before Ophelia Records, their releases on there, their EPs, and now they have a new era on Lost in Dreams, the record label. And I gotta say that these two albums they've released have been really good. I think that Crystal Skies is a very interesting duo that make a lot of great songs, a lot of different genres. They mix with a lot of different styles of music, and that's something I really like about melodic based artists, and especially ones that are not afraid to go, for example, into trance, for example, into heavy, like more heavy stuff, to collaborate with different people and singers. And this one is no exception. I feel like this one is really good. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over each one of the songs, and I have to say that this one had a lot of singles too. That's something that surprised me, is that nearly every song in Stardust was released before the final release, but we're going to discuss that in a little bit. So I'm going to go over each one of the songs, say what I like the most about each one, which ones I enjoyed the more, and then give my final opinion on the whole thing. So yeah, let's get on to it, and starting with the first single. Crystal Skies began their Stardust era in 2023 in June with Heart Still Beating, a collaboration with She Is Jules. Crystal Skies have done a lot of songs with She Is Jules before, back in Ophelia, and I gotta say that this one is really interesting. It has like a really cool style to this era. I like the way the song goes between like a little bit softer styles and a little bit like more towards the classic melodic synths towards the end, and I like this one. I wouldn't say it's that big of a strong start to the album because there are some really great songs in this one, but I feel like this one just really gives us like the classic Crystal Skies feeling that a lot of people like. Now, the second single from Stardust is Nirvana, and I have to say Nirvana is probably my favorite song on the album. This one is so good because it has Amity on both the vocals and the production, and Amity is a fan favorite of all the people who love melodic bass. You probably heard him in a lot of different songs, collaborations with Seven Lions, with Excision, and this one is no different. I feel like this one has Amity's really powerful voice on it. It has a lot of really interesting elements and also some really deep and powerful melodies. So one of the things I enjoyed the most about the song is that it has like that classic Amity feel to it, and it's just really nice to listen to. I've listened to it a lot of times, and this one really surprised me. I think this was a really strong single that followed Heart Still Beating, and yeah, I really enjoyed this one too. After Nirvana, Crystal Skies released the song Waiting with AU5, which I already reviewed. In my review of AU5's album Bridges Between, I think it was a great song, but after that they had Hurt Sometimes with Run, which once again is part of Stardust. It is their second collaboration with Run after Feels Right in 2019, so it's already 5 years since they made a song together, and Run is very amazing. I think if you followed melodic bass for as long as I have, you've heard her in so many different songs, and she has an amazing voice. I think she needs no introduction, and I just like this one. I think this one could have done a little bit more work on the production, but overall I feel like this one has some really good melodies. Her voice is amazing as always, and I love how everything mixes together to provide a really great song that has its place in the album. Now we have Stardust with Hallian. And Hallian is another vocalist that needs no introduction. She is an amazing artist with a great voice and also great songwriting. And this one focuses more on the trance kind of side of the production style that Hallian likes to go for in a lot of her songs. I feel like she leans more towards trance nowadays, more than melodic bass. But her voice is so amazing in all these different genres, and I like her. And I like her in both of these worlds. I have enjoyed her songs, for example, with Marcus Schultz, with Seven Lions, Millennium. I feel like these both worlds of melodic bass and trance mix together in this song in such an amazing way. And I have to say that this is the song that represents the rest of the album because it's just so powerful and also focuses on like the big theme of the album, which is the whole Stardust, like this feeling of powerful feelings of beauty, of looking into the sky and just imagining like the vast expanse of everything you can do. I feel like this one carries all those feelings within it, and that's one of the reasons I enjoyed it. I feel like this one just carries the spirit of the album the most, and it's just really fun to listen to, and after a couple of listens it really stuck with me. The next one is Growing Pains. This is a song that I enjoyed too. It has Sounder on the vocals. I like this one, but I feel like it doesn't really stand out as much as the other songs. It's just kind of like a classic melodic bass build up, drop, and production. But I have similar feelings to Heart Still Beating, but overall I'd say it's a good song. I feel like each song has its place in the album, and it's just a really nice addition to Crystal Skies' new era. Now, before the full release of the album today, there were 2 extra singles that were released yesterday, and those were Farewell with Known as Nat and Other Side with Lux Tides. Now, first let's focus on Farewell. They have collaborated with Known as Nat and other songs. I especially love the collaboration with Nurko that came out I think 2 years ago. That is one of the greatest Crystal Sky songs in my opinion, and her voice was really welcome in this song. But at the same time, I feel the same way as some of the other ones. It just has this classic build up and drop that is heard in a lot of melodic bass songs, but I feel like it's still a really nice formula. I think this one is just really fun and really nice to listen to, but other than that, it doesn't really stand out. That's something I noticed over the entirety of the album. I feel like there are songs that really don't stick with me, but I'm sure that after a couple of listens that I'm just gonna really start to enjoy them. So it's still too early to say, but I feel like this one is good. It doesn't stick out as some of the other ones, but I think it's still a good song. Now we have Other Side with Lux Tides, and this one is much better than a lot of the other songs. This one has some really interesting feelings that go back and forth. It's kind of it has a more interesting production style, especially on the drops and the synths. It has some interesting dark undertones. You could really tell that Crystal Sky started to experiment with some really different sounds, and that is shown into a lot of their different songs. And I just like this one. I feel like it has a lot of the same structure as some of the other songs, but overall I like this one more than, for example, Farewell or Heart Still Beating. I feel like this one just kind of has that mid to high range in the album, and yeah, I just like the Other Side. Now it is time to go over the full album, start to finish, from the first one to the 10th, and it is 10 songs, a little bit shorter of Not Since When, so that's something to take into consideration, but overall I still think it's a really solid album. So anyways, we start with Growing Pains, which I think it's a fantastic choice for this first song of the album. I feel like this one is also one of my favorites. I like the song a lot, and it's a great opener. Then Stardust with Hellion, which I already talked about, Hurt Sometimes, and then Other Side with Lux Tides. And then the next song, the 5th one, kind of the midpoint of the album, gives us something really different from Crystal Skies. This is an example of songs from them that I really enjoyed that experiment with different sounds. This one is really heavy, and it has that experimental feeling that they were trying to go for a more heavy dubstep drops. They're trying to go for more heavy dubstep drops. It reminds me of the recent song they released with Midas on his album, and something that I really enjoyed. I feel like this one provides a really amazing break in the formula, and first provides some really interesting drops, a much darker tones. It also tells a different story for what they're going for in this album. For example, has the whole theme of space, of exploration, of gazing into the stars, and it's something that is shown in Event Horizon in a much darker way. After that, we have Heart Still Beating with She Has Jewels, then Farewell with Known as Nat, and finally, this is probably my favorite or second favorite song on the album, which is Explosions. Now, it is really interesting to see explosions in the album. I feel like now it is obligatory for every melodic EDM artist to put a melodic drum and bass song in the album, and I feel like every time they do it, it's just blows me away. I feel like all these melodic D&B songs hit really different, and for example, I love artists like Bizarre that focus on this, and this one, Explosions, is no different. I feel like this one has some really interesting production style on it. It just really hits different, and it's a good also break in the formula. We have a heavier song, we have a D&B one, and it just provides a really great balance to the album, and that's why it is one of my favorites. After that, we have Nirvana, and then the final song in the album. It seems that they put all the best songs towards the end, because Lifeline is also a song that I really enjoyed. I feel like this one has some really interesting production. It has Maggie York on the song, and this song just really hits hard because of some different production styles. Maggie York's voice is really powerful, and also I really enjoyed like kind of like the twinkling sound in the background of the song. For example, in the beginning, there's some like really interesting elements that make the song a lot more beautiful, and also towards the middle of the song, there's a really interesting and experimental drop that I enjoyed. Overall, this is a pretty good album. I think that Stardust is a good follow-up to a lot of Crystal Sky's recent music. I love their collaborations, but that's something I also miss, like their collaborations with other producers like Seven Lions, Midas, Mazare. I feel like they had a lot of that in their own respective albums, but I feel like Crystal Skies needs to pair up with other producers, maybe like some up and coming producers, in order to really like focus on their own music instead of like making production for other artists. That's something that I would like to see in the future. So anyways, those are pretty much all my thoughts on Stardust. It's a pretty good album. Overall, I think I'm gonna give it like a 70 out of 100. I liked it. As a final thought, I think this album follows a lot of the formulas from melodic bass, for example, like the drop, like the like crashing synths, and but in some of the experimental songs, you know, they're experimental, like all different from like, for example, the heavy song, the DnB song. But yeah, I like this one. I feel like it doesn't really break that much of the formula, but as a melodic bass fan, I feel like it's really welcome. So anyways, yeah, those are pretty much all my thoughts now, finally. So yeah, that's everything for today. So if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see each other next time. Goodbye.